Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Priester from Irish Illustrated, and this is Irish Illustrated ISO. Keep in mind that today, Wednesday, April 16th, the transfer portal opens. So some of what I talk about today could change. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to apply. But today I wanted to follow up actually to a story and a Irish Illustrated ISO um, prior to the start of spring practice. And the concept was who are the most interesting or intriguing players at the various positions. And I went through each position and picked a guy. And so we're going to look at who I picked prior to the spring and who I would pick post spring. Let's start with the quarterback position. It was easy to say CJ Carr is going to be the most intriguing guy out there. And in a lot of respects, he certainly was. Some of the passes that he threw in the blue gold game were absolutely outstanding. And I think that everything that we continue to see of CJ Carr is a guy that is really, really talented and pushing strongly for the starting spot. Steve Angeli, obviously, the steady Steve Angeli. He probably hates that that word being put before his name, but that is who he is. He's not a deep ball thrower, etc. But I thought the most intriguing guy coming out of the spring, and if you've been listening to our Irish Illustrated Insider podcast, you would know that our staff and Pete Sampson from The Athletic was pretty unanimous in saying that Kenny Minchey's performance this spring opened eyes, and maybe that's our problem because we underrated him going into the spring. Probably thought that it was a two-man race, but it legitimately was a three-man race. And Kenny Minchey showed some things: good mobility, tremendous ball fakes on his read option keeps, can throw the football rolling to his right, runs it well, is a threat in the red zone, which if he doesn't win the starting quarterback job, he could possibly have the job of red zone quarterback. So he really had a really eye-opening spring. I don't know exactly if the coaching staff would tell you that they were surprised by it because they see him every day, but we don't. And we in the media certainly don't, and the fans don't. So to see the Jersey scrimmage the previous Saturday, and then the blue gold game, I thought Kenny Minchey showed himself really well, represented himself really well. Moving on to the running back position, I had Jabron Payne, the guy coming back from the knee injury, the short yardage runner early in the 2023 football season, coming off a torn ACL that happened late in the blue gold game of 2024. So I thought he was the most intriguing. And again, with our limited access, he may have been the most intriguing guy on the practice field all spring, but we only saw bits and pieces. And then, essentially basing it upon the Jersey scrimmage and the blue gold game, I don't know that he distinguished himself. Look, he's a solid running back, great pad level. That's why he beat out Audric Estime for the short yardage job at the beginning of 2023. Estime eventually took that over amidst a great season. And, Aeneas Williams is always interesting. I thought Nolan James showed himself well as an early entry freshman. I like him. I know Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated likes him a lot. The perception is that he's small. I don't get it. I don't see it that way. He's 5'10", 207, but he is an Aeneas Williams type runner. We didn't see Jeremiah Love for the blue gold game. He tweaked a hamstring during the Jersey scrimmage. So my pick is Jadarian Price, and it's based upon, I think he had a very good spring and made some improvements in terms of his north-south running. If he wants to get on the field more and get more carries, I think that was essential. He looked very good in the blue gold game. He snapped off a 22-yard run early on behind that rejuvenated offensive line when they brought back Wagner, Knapp, and Schrouth, who none of which had played the previous week. And Price ran well behind them, but he is fast, he is darting, and when he has a north-south frame of mind, he's even better. So I think he's a better football player as a result of this spring. There were not a lot of live reps for Jeremiah Love, so that pushed Jadarian Price to the front of the pack for the spring. And then Aeneas Williams, with Jabron Payne after that. I don't know what happens with Jabron Payne, but with the portal opening up, some guys are going to move on. And I think Payne would be a candidate for that. I hate to speculate about a player's personal life, which is what this is. But as we look at from a football standpoint, that's kind of what we're thinking. At wide receiver, I chose KK Smith. KK Smith being a junior in school, a redshirt sophomore, one of the older wide receivers in camp, really, this spring with a whole bunch of youngsters, including 3 early entry freshmen. But I didn't think And if you heard our Irish Illustrated Insider following the blue goal game, I just didn't think that KK Smith competed hard enough on one. It's really one play in particular, one deep ball in particular. He's got to go out and win a job. He's got to be physical when it's a 50-50 ball. It has to be his. And I didn't think that he showed that. And so I have somebody else in mind, and Micah Gilbert, really, he didn't do much this spring after breaking a couple fingers. Jordan Faison was at playing in the lacrosse game for Notre Dame, not participating in the blue goal game. Cam Williams, this is another guy. I mean, I just don't think that he has the football maturity right now to gain playing time at wide receiver. Malachi Fields doesn't come in until this summer. Logan Saldate, who is a redshirt freshman. Um, I I don't think that he's ready for competition. Maybe that changes over the summer, but I don't see that him as a guy getting on field. Jaden Greathouse, we know, will be the lead guy. Jerome Bettis is a project certainly too, although I thought he did some good things this spring. So my choice is really two, but the lead guy would be Elijah Burris, who I think has a chance to move into the field receiver position with Jordan Faison. Faison obviously is a starter there, but I think Burris has a chance to compete for playing time there. He's fast, he's quick and fast. When I spoke with Devontae Smith, Notre Dame's nickel arrival from Alabama, he talked about, unsolicited. He brought up Elijah Burris and his wiggle, and he would know he's a nickel. He's got to defend those guys in space. And so I thought Elijah Burris had a really good spring for an early entry freshman. And then Scrap Richardson, I know the fans saw him do some things in the blue goal game, a dynamic athlete listed only at 169 pounds. I don't think his time is this year. He's very inexperienced as a receiver. He didn't play receiver in high school. He's more quarterback. And the learning curve at wide receiver, with everything that needs to be known about the precision of routes and reading coverages and adjusting to coverages on the run, all of those kind of things. He showed in the spring game, and kudos to him for doing that. But Elijah Burris is my choice coming out of the spring as the most intriguing of the wide receivers. At tight end, I picked Kevin Bauman, again, a guy coming off of multiple injuries, two torn ACLs, a broken leg along the way the last few years. And you know what? He still is intriguing because he had a good spring. He had a good spring. He had a healthy spring. He made a real quality play, ran a really good route on a ball perfectly thrown by CJ Carr. I think he had the 23-yard catch, whereas another tight end, Jack Larson, had a 24-yard catch and had a good spring game as well. I guess I'm going to, Ty Washington's not here yet. James Flanagan's not here yet. Cooper Flanagan is coming off of the Achilles injury. So there isn't a lot to choose from, but I want to mention both Eli Raritan and Jack Larson. Starting with Jack Larson, because Jack Larson had a really good blue goal game. I know, again, impressed Notre Dame fans. He had the 24-yarder and the 17-yard catch. And Notre Dame needs a guy like him to step forward. But he's a little bit undersized. Let's put it this way. I thought what he did in the blue goal game was the best that we in the media have ever seen him, or at least from my eyes, my perspective. I don't know how that translates moving into the fall. I just have a question about that because he's undersized, and I haven't, just my observation, I haven't thought that he's run really crisp routes. And when you're an undersized tight end, you really need to do that. And he, that's just not what I saw. But hey, heck of a blue goal game, and congratulations to him for doing that and putting himself in the running. Eli Raritan, I know in our recent podcast with Pete Sampson of The Athletic, he was really ready to say that Eli Raritan is a guy that's going to emerge in a big time this fall. I'm not sure that I'm ready to say that because I think we need to see that in game competition. But there's no doubt that Eli Raritan, I mean, the Jersey scrimmage, he had a 40-yard run where he weaved his way through traffic beautifully. And then in the blue goal game, he had a really impressive 15-yard gain in which he avoided 3 tackles. Finally, the fourth person in the equation made to stop on him. And so when you combine what he did in the Jersey scrimmage and the blue goal game, I hear where Sampson's coming from. I mean, he looks like he's right on the verge. He's always been an athletic freak. He's one of those guys. When you talk about first guys off the bus, I'm not sure you normally necessarily pick a body type like his, but he's 6'6", 6'7", 250 plus pounds, and it really is a great athlete. So Raritan showed what we've all been waiting to see. And again, he was coming off of 2 ACL injuries, and it just takes time. We've talked about this before. You have an ACL injury, and it's really not until the second year that you're playing up to your capability. So Eli Raritan, Jack Larson are my choices at tight end. Along the offensive line, it was natural for me to pick Gerby Lambert as the most intriguing guy going into the spring. And it's really a damn shame that he wasn't able to get through the whole spring and get the 15 practices and play against the best of the best along Notre Dame's defensive line. But he suffered a shoulder injury, had labrum surgery, so he was out. So where do I turn? Well, I'll tell you what was really intriguing about the Blue Gold game was, and I mentioned at the top of this, that Billy Schrouth and Emil Wagner and Anthony Knapp played in that game. And man, you can see what the chance that Notre Dame has to have an outstanding offensive line. Charles Jagusaw is going to be a great offensive lineman, whether it's at tackle or guard. It looks right now like it's going to be at guard. He was playing right guard in the Blue Gold game. That's his best position. That's where he will play in the NFL. And he will play in the NFL if he can stay healthy and just get through this college career of his. And then the guy, however, that Ashton Craig is out. I thought early entry freshman Matty Augustine showed this spring. Had a slip up in the Blue Gold game, which is understandable. Styles Prescott got a ton of #1 reps at left tackle, but my opinion there is, and I've said this, I don't think that he's really in consideration for a starting spot. But I'll tell you who is, and it's my choice for the most intriguing along the offensive line, and that is Sullivan Absher, the 6'8", now listed at 6'8", 318-pounder. He's played tackle, he's played guard, and he's played center this spring. And that's why it was really cool when you saw those other guys in the starting lineup, and then Sullivan Absher is at center in the Blue Gold game. It's like, okay, well, you found a way to get your best, the best players that were healthy. You found a way to get them on the field together. And I think that had a lot to do, well, it absolutely had a lot to do with the efficiency and the productivity of the offense during the spring game. Behind that #1 offensive line, the offense did a lot of good things, and it seemed to bring out the best in the #2 offensive line, which is really a disjointed group. But they did some good things too, because the offense continued to move the football, especially with CJ Carr as the quarterback behind that line. But Sullivan Absher, I love it. I think that Joe Rudolph showed great creativity, kind of out of necessity, I guess, by moving him to center. 6'8", 318 is tall, certainly taller than normal for a center. Remember back in the day, a few years ago, when Ian Book had difficulty looking over Josh Lugg as the tall center. But I've never really seen any other quarterbacks have issues with that. And so Absher, for me, he's clearly a guy that's been knocking on the door for the starting lineup, but generally here in the last year has been the #6 or #7 guy. With a healthy Ashton Craig, he probably goes that Absher probably goes back to #6, but we don't know exactly where Ashton Craig will be. I think he's coming along quite well from his knee injury against Purdue in Game 3 of 2024. But Sullivan Absher is my choice, and I think has a chance to be a pretty good football player if he ends up getting the opportunity to enter the starting lineup this fall. At defensive end, I had Logan Thomas. I would have, all things being equal, I thought that was the right choice because pre-spring for the most intriguing, because he's just a young guy, and we know what Traore and Botello can do, but they're out. Josh Burnham, to a large extent, also was out of the Blue Gold game. We didn't see much of Junior Tui Alamaka. And so it would have been a great opportunity for Logan Thomas in the Blue Gold game. I'm trying to remember if he participated in the Jersey scrimmage. I think he might not have. I don't think that he did. So because of that, I'm excluding him from my post-spring most intriguing defensive end. And I'm going to go with Bryce Young, because Bryce Young is just so damn good. He just gets better and better. He keeps growing. 6'7", 260. I made a comment in the tail of tape for those that subscribe to irishillustrated.com that even when, I can't remember exactly how I put it, even when he's not doing something noticeable, he's noticeable, which doesn't really make any sense. But I think you probably know what I'm saying, that like you have to account for your eyes account for him, whether he's making a play or not. And he's just so impressive and just keeps getting better and better. The more that we see of Bryce Young this fall, the better. He's a he's a great kid, largely because he's the son of B.Y. Brown Young, who I have a great deal of respect for. And Bryce Young just keeps getting better and better. And everybody says the sky's the limit. And I'm saying it too. Bryce Young is going to be a great player and has a chance to be an All-American at Notre Dame and certainly play on the next highest level of football. A defensive tackle, I chose Jared Dawson. Jared Dawson, the transfer from Louisville, will be the most intriguing this fall when the season starts and he's in the middle of that starting defensive line. I think he's going to be very intriguing and very productive, very quick. He can play either position. He can two gap because he's so quick off the football. Gabe Rubio's out there. Gabe Rubio looks big and really good. Donovan Hinish continues to improve. Elijah Hughes, a transfer from USC, had 5 tackles in the blue gold game. Maybe not. I don't know that his performance was as good as his 5 tackles of productivity indicated, but I think there's some ability there. Armel Mukum, I think, goes back to defensive tackle, but was playing a big defensive end in the blue gold game. And Sean Sevillano did some really good things. Big dude, listed at 341, still needs to get a lot lighter, so it'll improve his stamina. But I'm picking 2 other guys, and really, I'm one of them is Cole Mullins, who's playing defensive end. I should actually have him listed there. I had him listed at defensive tackle going into the spring, but he was playing at defensive end. And you know what? We talk about him being, he was small for a defensive tackle. I think he was in the 240s when he got here. Well, now he's 6'5", 262. And if he's going to play strong side end, number one, he's going to have a really difficult time getting on the field because of all the talent at defensive end. But he's not too small for the position. And I love the kid. He's physical. He makes plays. He's around the football. He's another guy that it just seems like every time we see him in live competition, he's noticeable. So kudos to him. He's got a long way to go in his career. And you always like what you see from him. Always very productive. But my choice is Jason Onye. And that's for good reason. He was absolutely outstanding in the Jersey scrimmage. He was physical. He absolutely had to be accounted for and was a clear standout in the Jersey scrimmage. Now, in the blue gold game, going up against those number 1 offensive linemen, I thought he struggled. He caught a lot of double teams, which are, if you're getting doubled by 6'8", 318-pound Sullivan Absher, and I don't have exactly what John Usai is, but he's a big dude too. When you get double teamed by them, I mean, most defensive tackles are going to succumb. But I thought there were times where he got pushed around a little bit in general in the blue gold game. And so he didn't, in my mind, maybe the coaching staff looks at it completely differently. But he didn't follow up the Jersey scrimmage with the performance that we're kind of anticipating and hoping for. Because let's face it, if Jason Onye is really good, then Notre Dame's defensive tackles have a chance to be really good. If you have you have Jared Dawson, you have Gabe Rubio, you have Donovan Hinish, who came a long way last season. Man, you want to talk about a 16-game season that really benefited a player. Donovan Hinish was one of those guys, and he's probably we're probably always going to put the word undersized before his name, but he did a lot of productive things for Notre Dame in their playoff run. So Jason Onye is my choice, and Cole Mullins, who actually has moved out to D-end. Linebacker, a little bit tougher because we didn't see much of Jalen Sneed in the blue gold game. He was very good in the Jersey scrimmage. He was my choice pre-spring. And he is intriguing, of course, because if Jalen Sneed reaches his full potential, he is an absolute difference maker on a defense with a bunch of linebackers that are really good. But if he can be consistent, somebody that Chris Ash knows that he can plug in there in any situation, then that's a difference maker. But Drake Bowen was limited. Kingston Viliamu-Asa is always intriguing because he's a great football player. And he made some penetrations in the blue goal game that were very, very impressive. Jaden Osbury's a little bit bigger than he was, and is going to play a key role for Notre Dame. I don't think Madden Faramo is quite ready, but he made some plays in the blue gold game as well. And, just an early entry freshman. So his time will come. I don't think his trajectory is along the same as KVA when he came in. But part of that is because there's just so many good football players at linebacker. My choice, it's not a real exciting pick, I guess, because neither one of these two guys are probably going to have an opportunity to play a whole lot this year unless there's some attrition there. And if there is some attrition, Preston Zinter is a guy that always, always, always shows up when the media is in attendance. I don't know if he has any idea we're there. He probably doesn't give a damn, but he has a way. It's not bright lights, but we are the people that can report what happens during these scrimmages, and he just makes plays. He showed up in the blue goal game. He had penetration. Luke Telich got a ton of credit for his performance, especially inside the 5-yard line when he made back-to-back tackles. But what set those plays up was penetration from Preston Zinter and Kingston Viliamuasa, one on each play. So Preston Zinter, pressure on the quarterback, was credited with a sack. I think we joked about that because he beat Matty Augustine on the sack, and Matty Augustine looked like an early entry freshman on that one snap. Although he had a noteworthy spring for a young early entry freshman offensive tackle. But Preston Zinter, and then the other one is Bodie Cahoon, because when Max Bullis said to us that he's the most explosive linebacker that they have, it's like you do a double take, because that's a hell of a statement when you're part of a linebacking core with Jalen Sneed and Drake Bowen and Kingston Viliamuasa and Jaden Osbury. So Bodie Cahoon probably doesn't have a chance to see the light of day again, unless there are a ton of injuries, even less likely than Preston Zinter. Zinter's older and it's been around a little bit longer. But shout out to those two guys, because they had a good spring, at least when we had an opportunity to see them, and that bodes well as Notre Dame travels down this path of linebacker cores that seem to be stacking up and being pretty darn good every year. My last two picks were perfect, even a blind squirrel, huh? My pick for most intriguing player going into the spring was Nickelback cornerback Carson Hobbs. Carson Hobbs is going to be one hell of a football player. And, Notre Dame's strong at cornerback, obviously. We didn't see much of Leonard Moore on Saturday for the spring game. It wasn't necessary. Christian Gray, they were careful with him all spring. Devontae Smith had an abductor injury that kept him out of the Jersey scrimmage, and then he played a little bit early in the blue goal game and made a really quality defensive play in pass coverage. But we didn't see those guys essentially during the blue gold game. We saw Hobbs, and he was really good in the Jersey scrimmage, and he was really good in the blue gold game. Active, aggressive, talkative. Really, I mean, he is a two-way player. You can put him in the box. It's like Devontae Smith. You can put him in the box, and he can be a physical player. Kedron Young tried to give him a little bit of wiggle, and Hobbs had none of it, and drilled him and brought him down. I actually think that Hobbs is probably a little bit better in coverage than Devontae Smith, but Devontae Smith is the lead guy. But Hobbs has to play this year. Core special teams guy, but Notre Dame loves him. I know that one of the comparisons I heard thrown out was Paulson Adebo, the former Notre Dame recruit that ended up elsewhere. I loved him. Most Notre Dame fans were really disappointed he didn't come to Notre Dame. That was a comparison that I heard. I don't even really know where I heard that from now, but it came from somewhere around the Notre Dame football field. Carson Hobbs is going to be one hell of a football player, and it gives you flexibility right now. I think you can play him right now, and if that gives you an opportunity to give Devontae Smith a blow, or to give Devontae Smith an opportunity to play some safety, I don't think that they'll go that route, because he's an in the box nickel. That's who he is, very physical. But a guy like Carson Hobbs' development gives Notre Dame an opportunity to be creative a little bit and to play some guys and rest some guys, especially if you're going to be playing into the playoffs and beyond. You need that depth. Love Carson Hobbs. Going to be a great football player for Notre Dame. And then at safety, I picked Luke Tellitz pre-spring, and Luke Tellitz goes out and makes 9 tackles in the blue gold game, 2 spectacular tackles inside the 5-yard line. Adon Schuler is going to be the leader of that core back there. Jalen Stroman's going to have a say in playing time. But with Telich, and I don't think that was like a typical blue gold game flash in the pan kind of thing. Telich is they always knew Telich was going to be on scholarship when he got to Notre Dame. He wasn't on scholarship for 1 semester. And now he's just been around the program long enough, and it's time for him to ascend. So his development, him moving to the forefront with Schuler and then getting a healthy, hard-hitting, very aggressive Jalen Stroman back, that gives you a chance to have a rotation with those 3 guys. I'm not sure. We'll find out. We had a lot of questions after the blue gold game about virtually everybody on the roster, and Kennedy Urlacher was not a guy that participated to my knowledge. So not sure what the situation was there. We'll talk to Marcus Freeman actually a week from today, the 23rd of April, a Wednesday, and so I'll try to make sure that I include that question. Ben Minnick, how about Ben Minnick? I'm going to put him actually up there with Telich just because he had a hell of a blue gold game. And here's the thing: I talked about how the blue gold game is interpreted. Most of the time, you can't put much stock in it. This year, I think you absolutely can because there were so many players on both sides of the football that flashed. There are a ton of really quality football players on this roster. And to say that in the spring, before you've actually had fall camp and they've had summer workouts and everything that they're going to do, that which will improve them going into the fall, to come out of the spring feeling the way, and it's kind of a universal feeling. Fans came out of that blue gold game saying, "My God, there are a bunch of good football players here." So, Ben Minnick, I don't know how Ben Minnick necessarily gets into the rotation. Definitely a core guy on special teams, and good for him. He's a guy. He would be a candidate that could enter his name into the transfer portal. He wants to play, and it's going to be really difficult for him to do that. But I hope he stays because he'd be a real key member of the special teams and maybe even get a little bit of a sniff of the rotation on the back end at safety. Other guys, Tay Johnson flashed on occasion. Tabron Benny Powell had a pass breakup early in the blue gold game. Jadon Blair and Ethan Long are very long safeties that I think have a great deal of ability and potential, but they're going to have to wait their turn. Special teams, Noah Burnett, we all saw that scrub kick from 50 yards, but he rebounded from there. Nice, easy foot swing. And for the record, Joseph Vinci appears to have won both the short snapping and long snapping responsibilities. And Anthony Rizak is the holder for place kicks. That's the twin brother, a walk-on brother of scholarship player Teddy Rizak at linebacker. So, I missed on most of my pre-spring picks, but I think this is something that we want to continue moving forward because it's fun and it's great to take a further analysis of each one of the positions upon the conclusion of spring practice. Of course, spring practice as we speak right now is not finished. There are 3 practices after the blue gold game, but we'll catch up with Marcus Freeman a week from today and talk more about all these players that I talked about today. This has been Irish Illustrated ISO.